Your value is not dependent on your usefulness. Your worth is not dependent on what you do, is not dependent on your job or on your usefulness to and for society. At a very young age, grade school years, we have been taught early on that our usefulness, our social utility, grants us our value and our place in human society. We were taught early on that it is desirable to become a lawyer, to become a doctor, because these professions have a lot of usefulness in and for society. And therefore, we like to think of these occupations as being valuable in society. In contrast, we were taught early on that to be a slacker, to be jobless, is undesirable, yucky. Because what value does a jobless person have in society? But historically, the great philosophers, starting with the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, and even modern contemporary thinkers like Eckhart Tolle, would actually argue otherwise. Eckhart Tolle, in one of his many videos, and if you haven't heard of Tolle, Tolle, I would suggest that you check, his works, his channel out. In one of his many videos, he puts it in very laymanized terms. He says that our worth, our value as a human being is not dependent on anything extraneous. It's not dependent on anything external. It's not defined by your occupation, by what you do, but by how useful you are to society. But rather, our value is intrinsic. We are born with it, essentially. Our value, our worth as human beings comes to us by simply existing, by simply living. And for many of us, myself included, that is quite hard to grasp and to digest, because we have been taught early on and indoctrinated, perhaps that's the better term to use, that people who are loafers or slackers seem to have a lesser value in society than physicians, than civil servants, although, my God, that's a different story, especially in the Philippines. But the ancient and the modern philosophers would actually argue otherwise. Maybe we have just been taught early on that our value, our worth, rests on what we can churn out, on what we can produce, and on what we can do for society. And ergo, although that's a different topic altogether, how useful we can be for our capitalist masters, for the powers that be. When, in fact, that value has been residing within us all along, simply by existing. And so the next time you find yourself doubting yourself, hopefully not, but pitying yourself because you're not useful enough for your supervisor, you're not useful enough for your company, for society, for our capitalist society. I'm not sure if it's any consolation, but let the words of our ancient and our modern thinkers echo in your heart. That maybe your worth is actually there all along. And that we have been brainwashed, we have been indoctrinated to think that we need to do something else in order to be considered worthy. When in fact, we, you, have been worthy all along. And at the end of the day, you have to think and answer the question, for whom are you being useful in the first place? Are you being useful for your Fortune 500 company? For your boss whom you never liked anyway and who probably doesn't like you as well, reciprocally? If that is the case, do you think that is reason enough to pity, to doubt yourself, and to stress over? I'll see you again in our next video. I do wish you all the best and I send you nothing but good vibes. Thank you and stay safe.